Growing up as part of the church, there was this huge map in the lobby where we worshiped on Sundays. A map of the world with pins all over it, and each pin corresponded to a matching 8x10 picture that was next to the map. My mother explained to me, "Son, those are our missionaries." But no one ever bothered to teach us that if we are Christians, we're all missionaries. Our God is a missionary God, and we see His missionary heart displayed all throughout the Bible, starting right in the beginning of the story in Genesis 3. After Adam and Eve had chosen to rebel against God and eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they hide themselves amongst the trees. And what did God do? He went looking for them, calling out, "Where are you? Where are you?" Immediately after God's beloved image bearers chose a life of self-rule and rebellion, one where they thought they could manage the knowledge of good and evil, right and wrong for themselves, God went on a rescue mission. He went looking for them. That's His heart. God sent His Son Jesus to earth to take on human form and live within the culture. He worked and ate and interacted among the people, living in such a way that those around Him could see and experience what His Father is like. Jesus came so that all people, places, and things could be restored to a right relationship with God. That is now part of our transformed identity too. You might say it's a part of the family business. If you and your family, maybe with a few close friends, were called and sent and fully funded to go to another country and establish the gospel, to see a church started and planted, see people come to faith in Jesus, what would you immediately begin to do? What would your life consist of? How would you be with the people there? I've asked this question to many people, and their answers are always remarkably similar. They'd say things like, well, we would start by getting to know the language of the local people. We would eat what and where they eat. We'd start to dress more like them and adopt some of their customs. We would shop at the same places over and over to get to know the shop and the restaurant owners. We'd look for ways to be a blessing to these people, serving them in simple ways as a display of God's love. We'd need to live as much like them in really normal ways and build relationships over time. I think that'd be a pretty good start, don't you think? And countless times I've been asked, well, how many hours each week do you expect people to give to this church thing, to live like a missionary? And I wonder, is this a trick question? All of them. See, you are the church. You are a missionary if you're in Christ. And I have to be honest with you here. After living this way in community as a missionary for nearly a decade now, I don't think there's a huge difference between being a missionary here in America compared to living this way in a foreign country. People are people. We all have many of the same needs and fears. The biggest difference here is that I consistently feel two things pulling at me. My past experience of going to church instead of being the church, and my lack of faith that the gospel is truly good news for everyone and everything. My tendency is to revert back to making everything an event or a weekly meeting or a teaching time. As if people just heard one more good sermon or did one more Bible study, they would really get it, get saved. Well, if that was truly the case, then why didn't Jesus just broadcast some good news really loudly from heaven so that everyone on the planet could hear? Well, that's because the good news, the gospel, is not just a set of historical facts. The good news is a person. Jesus came to show the world what His Father is truly like. He came as a missionary, and that's why we go. We now get to live out of our transformed identity and live like this, like missionaries, right where we are. Loving others, treating them as family, and discipling them to truth and a relationship with Jesus. Missionaries, not what we do, but who we are.